Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm excited to bring to you Julie Tran, part two. And
Hello.
hey, thanks for doing this. I know that, it's a late on a Sunday night, so I appreciate you being flexible with me.
I'm like half zombie, half human right now, but for you, Davidson, anytime.
Your half zombie is people's like 100%, so I think we're good.
Giving me too much credit, but I'll take it.
Cool. And also like I feel like you're killing the fundraising game. Like I feel like I don't know, like I'm curious like how you're able to be so enrolling.
In with Orphans Futures Alliance.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Gosh, I was going to say the same thing about you. I feel like you're killing it. On the,
You're killing it more than I'm killing it.
I don't know about that. Well, let's just say we're both doing a great job. But you know what I think it is that um, I like to think that it helps when, because we're all bombarded with a lot of different causes to support, right?
Yeah.
How do you choose which one? Because there are needs everywhere, and sometimes we can get into a place where it's just like I can't look at anything because it's too overwhelming.
Yeah.
But if you can personalize it, if you can personalize why this cause is so meaningful for you, um, then your community will support you in supporting that cause. And obviously, they want to feel enrolled in what the cause is too. But I think a lot of it is weighted towards why it's important to you personally. So I think for the both of us, like we really have been honest with our journey and our connection to Orphans Futures Alliance. So.
Hmm. Yeah, I think so. You think it's more on the individual. So like not to like belittle Orphans Alliance's like cause because I think it is pretty awesome, but you think it's more on the individual, not like
Yeah, well, um, I think that that has a lot to do with the enrollment factor.
yeah, yeah.
Because I mean, um, we both are 100% behind Orphan Futures Alliance and empowering orphans in Southeast Asia through education and mentorship. And that we both know what an impact that has and what the power of the ripple effect, and the fact that we're both from Vietnam, right?
Right.
And it's like such a great way for us to be able to pay it forward because we've had the opportunities, whether or not we have a good relationship with our parents, like we've had the opportunity to be supported more so than a lot of children around the world and in Vietnam and Thailand, where we sponsor orphanages and orphans. Relative to their situation, we are so blessed. And so like imagine our lives without the support of our parents, without the support of our mentors, without somebody rooting for us, or cheering us on, or just sending words of encouragement. Um, so that at the same time, listen, like we're not the only nonprofit that is serving this community, right? And underprivileged children. So why would people choose Orphans Futures Alliance? So yeah, so I guess what I'm saying is that in terms of fundraising and in terms of enrolling people into this cause, it's really helpful, at least in my experience, to bring in your own story of why this cause resonated with me.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think like because you're so vulnerable about it too, because I do think like a lot of people. I mean, I think in general, like is infertility is like a big stigma, right? But at the
Mhm.
same time, like I think people are starting to like people know how common it is, but no one ever talks about it, right?
Mhm.
But because you're so courageous enough to like talk about something where people are still very, I think people are starting to talk about it more, right? But definitely not. It's definitely not like common, and I think that is probably why it's resonating with so many people, because like they're like, wow, like you're like a pioneer in that sense, you know. So yeah.
Yeah. I also it's funny that you mentioned that, because I remember the first year that I had put myself out there and really, gotten was more vulnerable than I had ever been in my entire life, like talking about my past with mental health and infertility. It is difficult AF to do. Um, at at the same time, it's really liberating too, because you're not hiding anymore.
Hmm.
And um and then once you break that seal, you're kind of just like, blah, like I'm just gonna start like, I don't know how else to be other than just be honest, because it just feels it. I just like, I know it's like liberation to me. So like, why go back, And so now it's like, I almost like don't even give it a second thought. Kind of do sometimes depending on the audience, but for the most part, I don't really give it a second thought.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that initial like, um, you know, push was really challenging, but it also was such a gift, because um, it was an invitation for me to um, put myself out there. It was an invitation for me to learn and grow from this, and like realize that, hey, I put myself out there, and I was able to inspire people who are going through something similar, or know people who have been going through something similar, humanize myself, and humanize this whole thing, um, and realize that like I was able to help people, and I didn't die from being this vulnerable, so yeah.
Is, is there anything still in your life that you still don't talk about, right? Because I think we all have like something that we're still like afraid to tell the world.
Yeah, gosh, Davidson.
You don't have to like tell me. I'm just curious. Like, is
Oh no. Yeah, I love, what? This is a really interesting question, because um, I'm pretty open book. And then at the same time, it's like, I do ask myself, okay, is it effective? Like, what am I trying to achieve here by sharing, right? Like, is this a forum for self-expression? Like, am I just a blog that I'm putting like everything that's going on in my life out there? Or if it's serving a purpose, then I don't really hide from anything, but if it's, or if I wanted to just self-express everything that was going on in my life, that's cool too, right? But for me, like, uh, I I actually think it's really cool when people do that, to just put their life out there, regardless of like, anything that they're going through. Cause I think there's always somebody that you can help with that. Um, I personally don't have the time to do that right now. So for me, when I put things out there, it always has to kind of serve a purpose. But yeah, and so I guess that's a long way of answering your question, but are there things that I'm afraid to talk about? Not really. Like if the question was asked, or if it was meaningful or impactful, like I can talk about it. Like I will say right now that um, over the last few months, within mm, during COVID, um, I really reprioritize what mattered to me, especially given that, I'm now a homeschooling mom, right? And anyway, we talked about this in the last podcast, but I was a new entrepreneur. I'm a coach, a homeschooling mom. My husband's work got even busier. So like all the support that he was always like, oh, you need to take the weekend? Don't worry, I got it, Now it's flipped, right? Um, and so I had to really reprioritize my life, and really like strengthen the foundation of who I am, what's important to me, which is me, my husband, and my kids, right? And then everything else comes after. And so during this time when I was sorting that out, I realized that, holy camole, like, my husband and I, we'd been married for how long? Almost 10 years.
Oh.
Almost 10 years.
Hmm.
And and you know, our relationship has evolved and grown. And I just realized that I've been neglecting our marriage, to be honest. Okay. And everything came before my marriage. And it just wasn't working for me anymore in terms of like, is that really what I wanted? Like if my marriage is important to me, then have my actions been in alignment with that.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and it hadn't. So anyway, um, yeah, so I'm like, we're talking about this now because, you know, the context of the question makes sense, but like, I don't just like put it out there. However, if I find that it was going to help people, I would absolutely talk about that. Because there's so much there. Like we've done so much work on our marriage.
Wow, it's such an interesting, and maybe that's why I feel like we can relate to each other a lot. Because I think similarly with me, I have always put our relationship, quite honestly, like to the back burner, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
even Orpha or like any like my career, like everything, right? But she's been so patient. She's always put me first. Like our family is like our relationship. She's always put that like first, and I think that's why I like have such like unconditional love for her because like I see that she always puts us first, and it's like inspiring. Like sometimes I'm like, man, like but I think I'm starting to work on it more, right? Like this COVID
Mm-hmm.
thing actually has helped us a lot, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like prior to the engagement this year, the house, and then the wedding coming up in October, like I felt honestly like she wasn't even top four. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'm being like hard on myself by saying that, but yeah, I could definitely relate to what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and you know, in doing this work, right? What I what I am understanding is that it's not necessarily like the time commitment per se in the relationship. I mean, that's important, but it's more about the energy and how you're showing up, right?
Yeah.
Like you can be putting somebody first, but they're but because of other things that are important to you, time commitment wise, you're more dedicated to your business.
Right.
But putting somebody first could mean that, like, that at the end of the day, you're going to come home and you're going to like pour your energy into the person. You're going to shine your light on them,
Right.
as opposed to neglecting them and taking them for granted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But yeah, but even that, like, I still don't think I could have, I definitely didn't think I prioritized like this.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm just being hard on myself, like, who knows?
Yes, it's something to look at. It's something to look at. But you know what's great about your fiance is that she's giving you an example for like what it looks like,
Yeah,
to prioritize someone and love them unconditionally, which is a gift.
yeah, yeah. And I see like that you two have that too. Like, I could just tell, it seems like it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Damn, yeah, we getting deep like right away.
I
This
know.
is-
That's how we do it.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, I mean, the standard's so high, it's hard to top that. Oh,
uh,
I'm curious, like, so are you still in teams?
at Landmark,
Yeah.
I'm not. Again, like, I, with COVID, I, as part of that, like, inventory, the taking inventory process, um, it just wasn't an integrity for me to be in team and show up for my family and my community the way that I wanted to. I'm such a I'm one of those people who have FOMO in terms of not wanting to miss out, like, growing.
Yeah.
I'm such a freaking dork.
I But it's like an addiction, I think sometimes, you know.
Yeah, but okay, so let's talk about that because 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 this is, I think, maybe something relevant for most people who are really into personal development
Yeah,
and
yeah.
growth, is you can get addicted to growth, right?
Yeah.
And so my decision in leaving team and joining team was one of the, and just so for your community and the listeners who don't know what team is, it's a program within the landmark worldwide uh, company. Landmark Worldwide does personal development, and it's a curriculum within Landmark that focuses on, call it, entrepreneurship. It's like kind of like B school. I call it B school, but like BE school.
Oh, I like.
And it's a 1 year to 2 year commitment. And I did it for 2 quarters. And within the second quarter, the pandemic happened. But prior to that, it's one of the best decisions that I had ever made and best investments I had ever made in my life. I grew so much from that, and I met so many like wonderful and inspiring and powerful people. And when you're around people like that, you just can't help but feed off their energy and step up too. But I just had to make a decision. Like as much as I'd love to say that, yeah, I can do it all and all day long, all day, every day, the reality of it is that, I have, that it just wasn't possible. So, but I had this fear of missing out. Like I would like avoided making this decision for so long because I had this fear of missing out on if I withdrew, then I would be missing out on all this growth.
Hmm.
Right. But, so I ultimately made that decision. And then, a couple months later, things started opening up in my life again in terms of in terms of resources, right? Like my older son was able to go to camp. And my younger son, it was in daycare. And then I had a few hours in the day again for myself. But I didn't know how long this was going to last. And so what I did was like, I signed up for like legit 3 to 4 classes or courses and coaching and all that stuff. And I packed it in 1 month because I was like, I gotta like take advantage of this time. I gotta who knows if I'm going to have this time again. And this is going to be like, I'm going to blast off in this month.
My God, that's fucking hilarious.
I know, it's so, because I was like, I think I was also coming out of some post-traumatic stress from having used to having the luxury of having a predictable schedule pre-COVID
Uh-huh.
to a schedule where I could not like make heads or tails of anything. I could not predict anything anymore, And so I think I was kind of reeling off the post-traumatic stress of that. But I realized that like I had to actually postpone a lot of those courses because, and this is actually like probably a really good example of a foam addiction to personal development, because you're just not going to get much out of it. Like you're trying too hard.
Oh.
Like there's like a need there. You're doing it from like a need as opposed to like curiosity or just like, just being like more chill about it, right? So when you're coming into with a need, like your vibration and your energy, you're not going to be at a place where you're going to be able to receive everything because you need it to happen or want it to happen so bad. And not only that, but you actually need the time and space to put it in action and have it apply to your real life and actually go through breakdowns, like real life breakdowns, and then apply it, So, so
Yeah.
I remember I was talking to my landmark coach within team, and there was a period of a few weeks where I was totally burnt out. And she knew like everything I had going on. And I was signing up for this thing and that thing and traveling and all of this. And she said, maybe that's something to look at. Maybe that's something to look at. Like, why are you always saying like, yes, 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 to like every single opportunity?
Hmm.
Right. And so I'll never forget. I don't think it was just, she just said one thing. It was such a short statement. Maybe that's something to look at. But it never left me. I
Uh,
always remember that conversation because there is a lot to look at there, like, why do I have this
hmm.
need? Is there like a lack? Do I feel like this is I'm fixing something, and and why do I feel like I'm fixing something? Like, what, how about Julie, like, you're actually more than enough and more than and complete as you are right now, you know?
Yeah, that definitely resonates with me. Yeah. Like to your point, like the frequency that you're approaching it can come from like scarcity, like, oh, I'm not enough or like I'm not there yet versus like,
Yeah.
well, I am enough, but I just want to grow even more. It's like there's more ease and grace to it versus like a place of like um yeah, it definitely look can come off differently, or even just for you, your own mental like self.
Mhm.
It's like like this is a pleasure. Like I'm happy doing this versus like just checking the box or like, oh, this will look good on my resume type of. It's like two
Mhm.
different things. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. And then, just as far as your energy going into it, like, you're just going to be exhausted, right? If you're coming from scarcity and the need versus from curiosity and openness, then you'll just be in a better place to receive, I believe.
That's so awesome that you realize that because I think a lot of times like we don't, right? We go through it and then we burn out and then we're like, oh, okay, maybe that was like too much. But
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like you were able to like receive the feedback. Because sometimes people could receive that feedback and be like, well, they don't know me. Like, watch, I can show you. Like, I got this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. So it sounds like you realize, but like it's interesting because like you'll always still have that hunger, like you'll always still have that like thirst for improvement and knowing that you're capable of more, right? But it sounds like you're also allowing yourself to have that balance, that like the space to just grow and just you know not like rush into it. It's like okay, like it's fine, like I'm happy where I am right now, but I know that I can receive more, I could be more, or I could impact um,
Yeah.
larger scale.
Yeah. That's exactly what the space I'm playing in right now. My whole life, even when it comes, within my career, even when it comes to personal development, I've been this like type A, hungry, wanting to optimize, maximize everything like all the time. Um, and and I wanted to accomplish, like, even if it's like accomplishing being present, like I needed to accomplish. um,
That's funny.
and uh, and I'm in this space now where I'm exploring what does it look like when I shift what it means to accomplish.
Mm.
Like, having the even as a coach and even as a community builder, right? Having the external success and what it looks like to be successful um, could look like a certain way. But what if I shifted, and it's a meaning that like I put on that, right? Like I had a plan that, my business was going to get to a certain point, and I had a plan on what it would look like in my community, right? And how many people I would be impacting and all that stuff.
Uh,
Um, but what if I could make a bigger impact by not pushing so hard, and by just taking this time that we have right now and really pouring that into myself and taking a pause, right? Because how often is it that we give ourselves permission to even do that? So what would it look like if accomplishment to me was taking this pause and actually really practice pouring into myself and pouring into what really matters to me, and being present with that, and just being, you know. And I know this sounds like, the concept of being, I think, is kind of abstract to it was abstract to me, and it kind of still is sometimes. But I guess the way I look at it is playing in that space of like not pulling the past and bringing it into the present, and not playing out the future while you're in the present. So just really being in the here and now. And what would that look like? And how do I really master that, right? That's mastering being present. Like, you know, I've done, how do I put this? There are always like different layers that you can go. You know, I've learned how to be more and more present as I've evolved in this journey. And there's just a deeper layer that I am discovering, you know, every single day. And playing with the tension of like, okay, being present, but yet how do I still have things happen? How do I still accomplish? How do I still set goals? So, yeah, that's a space that I'm in right now. And it's like, and it was, like a huge disruption to my system, like huge disruption. I needed to know exactly like my plan, my goals, and, you know, what the steps I was taking or whatever, with enough, you know, wiggle room and all that. But I needed a structure there. What happens when that all blows up, right? What happens when you just take that away and just be in this space of like, not having certainty, you know?
Yeah, it's an interesting concept because I think in Western culture, like we're so like we have to have a plan for everything, right? It's just so like I think this is a foreign concept for a lot of people, you know. But I do think like the times when I was the happiest was like where I was so engrossed into something that I finally then think about like, oh, you know, yay, my house is gonna be done building in December, or like, you know, like it was like just being able, like, I guess for me, like being in nature is that like that, where like I'm
Mm-hmm.
so into nature, then I'm so appreciative of like the clouds or like the beauty of like the mountains and trees and stuff, that like I'm like, oh wow, like for those like few hours, like I don't think about anything, you know. It's like, oh, you know, like wedding plans, and like, oh, is my dad gonna make, is he gonna be able to fly here from like California, you know. It's like always thinking about the future, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's awesome that you know, you're, and then like there's different layers, like you said, like you're discovering, you're rediscovering yourself, and then you're being okay. But then I guess, yeah, that's the challenging part, right? It's like, how can we be present but still be like intentional and be focused, right?
Yeah.
Because I do think it is also important to have like some sort of game plan, right? Or else like we're gonna end up one day and be like, oh, like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm like 75 years old, so.
Yeah. Cause sometimes, and it's going to be, you know, this is the beautiful part about this, is it's so different for everybody, and how and where they are in their lives and what they're experiencing. And I think for me, oh, the other thing I was going to say is the danger could also be like escapism,
Mm,
right? Like you could be quote unquote present as a way to escape responsibility or whatnot, right? Like that's the other side of it too.
right.
And so I don't think that there is like a definite right or a definite wrong. I think it's for everybody. I think of our lives as like a rocket ship, right? Where we have all these dials and you're always turning the lever to make sure that, you know, you're blasting off into space in the most harmonious way. Even when you go to that tension of breaking the atmospheric level, you're just constantly turning the dials for like what is right for you, you know, and you're going to make mistakes and you're going to have to like adjust the dial. You maybe overcorrected and you're going to have to turn it back the other way, and maybe you're overcorrecting again. And so like, it's just a continual process. And I think that that journey itself is life, you know. It's not where you end up, it's like how you're doing it. And are you doing it while you're fucking, excuse my language, but like stress the F out? Or are you like, hey, you know, this is just part of it. Like, I know like what this ship is meant to do, or this rocket is meant to do. I know what I know what dials that I need to turn. Oh, if I don't know here, let me go find out. And so that's how I kind of like to think about it, is there's no right or wrong. You kind of are just individually adjusting the dial for yourself on how present you can be. What is effective for you right now versus, you know, needing versus like being intentional. And then an analogy that I heard from this book by Dr. Shafali, who is a leading author and doctor and motivational speaker in the conscious parenting universe. She likens it to it's like, you know, being present, but knowing that you need to, if you know that you need to, like, for example, buy a plane ticket, right? And you know you have to like be at the airport at a certain time, you need to pack and stuff, like you'll plan for all those things, but yet you can still be present knowing that those are the things that you need to plan for. And you'll, like, you know, do the responsible thing and buy your ticket and pack and all that. But that's not something that needs to consume you and be with you every single moment of your life. So.
Yeah, I like that analogy, right? Because even the act of like buying the ticket, right? It like plants the seed, you know, so then you're more like, okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. But like, you know, it can't be so focused that like, you know, you're missing everything else, right?
Right.
Like, you know, there needs to be some balance where it's like, okay, you know, you still can like be able to look at the flowers and appreciate it, or like, oh, like it's like a beautiful sunset today, right? It can't just be about like that trip, right?
Right. Like, oh my God, if I don't buy it now, the prices are going to go up, and,
Yeah,
you know, like I'm screwed and I'm never going to get on that plane and blah, 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 you know?
yeah. That's good. I like that analogy. Man, I feel like we could talk for like hours and hours. Like part through, like, yeah, I feel like there's a lot to talk about. Yeah.
I know.
But it is it is like getting late.
I know this old lady here. I was just telling Davidson earlier that that I usually, I'm actually like a night owl, but you know, because of I'm going to blame it on my kids. I just blame everything on them because of my kids. I can't do that anymore. So
Person. Okay. Huh.
yeah, yeah. So it is getting late, but you know, perhaps we can continue another conversation.
Yeah.
Where we can do virtual coffee or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'm so down.
Yeah.
We should do like a Facebook Live thing sometime. Or is that distracting?
Yeah.
Is that distracting? Or...
If Facebook Lives, I think it's fun. It can be, but I think it's fun.
I haven't done too many of them, so maybe we'll do that next.
Yeah, I'm down.
It could be called Open Book with Julian Davidson.
I know. More open than you ever can wanted or imagine.
Probably more than what you would want in life.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So good.
Well, thank you, Julie. This has been fun. I think like we had some pretty deep conversations. I think a lot of people can relate to it, especially like in the Northeast where everyone's like hustling all the time and like just trying to like become a millionaire. Like, like I feel like everyone around this is like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, that like, I think it's great that we all have big dreams and everything, and we can also create spaciousness for, you know, for fulfillment and happiness in the now, because really, that's all we have.
Yeah, that's a good ending to wrap this up. I like that quote. Yeah. Well, thank you, Julie. Really appreciate you. And I'm so like it's crazy. Like you're just growing like exponentially. Like it's a cool to witness your journey. So it's nice to see. Yeah.
Thank you. And I look forward to celebrating with you and your wedding one of these days when we're able to like see each other in real life again.
I know. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Cool. Well, thank you, Julie, and hope you have a good night.
You too. Bye.